I'm Eric Barden.
I'm Amy Barden.
And this is another episode of Bombarded. Today we're talking with Ellyse Bracken from Bridges, a fantastic organization helping young people conquer addiction.
Yeah, we actually were just at their fundraiser, and I got to see, I hadn't seen her acting in this leadership role yet. I knew her. She was at Uplift Northwest prior. And it was so fun to watch her take that talent out for a spin. And she's a very eloquent speaker, wonderful leader, very relatable with people, with community. And I think she's doing a really good job. She herself is in recovery, and she's doing a good job helping people to understand what kids really need and how they recover, and that it's not all about therapists and it's not about medication for some, but for most, it's about community. It's about connection to purpose, some sort of future that they can look forward to, hobbies, friends, all of the things that kids need.
And expectations.
Yeah, that's right.
She's about expectations and recognizes that some structure is helpful, particularly for young people.
Yeah.
So I look forward to chatting with her very much. It's interesting to think that just a few years ago, she was in active addiction.
Yep.
And now she is operating at this, like Patrick Arney. You
can't imagine
Patrick Arney not being an absolute rock star.
Yeah.
But you talk to him, hear about his past, he was not such a rock star.
Yeah.
And I think Ellyse is the same way.
Yeah, and similarly, I think she's in her 6th year now of recovery. She's married. She's got her 2nd baby on the way. A beautiful family, and so it's very inspiring.
Very inspiring, and obviously inspiring for those folks who are suffering in toil in addiction right now. To know that there can be another way. There can be a new life ahead. And she's kind of a shining example of that. I look forward to chatting with her.
Yeah, nicely said.
Well, welcome, Ellyse.
Thanks.
We're glad. Ellyse and
Leo.
And
Leo.
Leo.
Baby has a name?
Leo, yeah.
Oh, that is so cute. Okay. Yeah, this is Baby's first podcast.
Baby's first podcast.
I love it. So, Ellyse, you and I met at Uplift Northwest, and I was meeting with Gina and some other folks, and I don't remember what was I doing? Just learning what works. Yeah. But Ellyse, as I was leaving the building, followed me out onto the sidewalk. It was just like, hey, and started talking really fast about, an endeavor of a friend, actually. That now I'm very invested in at this point. And I just got a kick out of her, and we became friends. And I mean, again, this is basically what you did to me too. And I wound up with a husband.
Friends too.
Yeah, we became friends. And then later you took a new role.
I did.
And again, after I met you, then I met your father-in-law at an event at the WAC. And I was like, I am worming my way into this family.
Yes.
So tell us about your current job, your work, and then I want to know your backstory.
Yeah, I would love to. So currently, I'm the executive director of Bridges, which is an alternative peer group in Seattle. And essentially what we do is create safe, sober space for teenagers and their families in an early recovery time of their life. A lot of our kids go to the recovery high school in Seattle, but that's not an explicit requirement. We've been trying to bring in kids from other schools. And so we help them create space after school to have fun, build community, and kind of get on this track toward a life rooted in recovery.
Yeah. I didn't know about the organization until you reached out when you were in your role. And I was so relieved to know that it exists, because I'm always bemoaning, if you're 18 and older, I've got this whole array of resources. And I feel like we've got to be reaching our kids and intervening early. And I hear from everybody, the role of community is the thing in recovery. That is the thing. That is the sustaining protective factor. And so how do you get referrals? How does that work?
It's really interesting. I've been working toward building some relationships with youth treatment centers so that when kids are coming back to our area, we can get them set up to visit the recovery high school, because that's not an automatic step for someone. A lot of these kids, they're comfortable in their schools or they want to go back to hang out with their friends. But in all reality, going back to that environment is going to set them up to continue to do what they were doing.
Yeah.
And so working with treatment centers, working with, local social workers, youth-based programs, they're also like so few and far between that our referrals are, trickling in when they should be flooding.
Yeah, they should. Yeah, that's exactly right.
And obviously we have the recovery high school. So anyone that starts out at the recovery school is going to have an opportunity to come to Bridges.
Yeah, it's baked in.
Yes,
yeah, that makes sense.
It's an ecosystem for sure.
So are you from Washington?
I'm not. I was born in California, spent some of my childhood down there, but then moved up here actually to Fife, Tacoma area.
Okay.
Went to Fife High School.
Okay.
And moved to Seattle in early 2020.
Okay.
February of 2020.
And so I know that you have lived experience, but I don't know what or why or how.
A lot of lived experience. So I come from a family of alcoholics. My dad's been in recovery for just over 25 years.
That's awesome.
And so I grew up in, 12-step rooms, around that language, around that community. And honestly, I was terrified of becoming like my dad.
Yeah.
And I've told this story a lot, but I didn't really drink in high school. I didn't really party. I didn't participate in like being a teenager that way because I had seen what it had done in my family. And then I got in a really bad car accident when I was 17 years old, and I got an OxyContin prescription. And it was just so downhill so fast. And I had no idea, right? Like I got a prescription from a doctor.
Right.
Yeah. You trust that doctor?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's from the pharmacy. It's probably good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the landslide that my life took after that was unimaginable.
What year was that?
2007.
Yeah. Okay. So there was really no awareness
No.
yet, because I was in that space, in the nonprofit world, reacting basically to the epidemic, opioid epidemic. And that was like 14, 15, 16, those years. And it was actually kind of enraging, because I met so many Ellyses. So many people had no intention, no predilection whatsoever. And again, they were trusting a medical professional or pharmacist. So what happened with it? Was anyone aware that you were addicted?
I think my dad knew on some level. And because the trajectory of my life just changed so fast.
Yeah.
It became everything all the time. My group of friends changed. My activities changed.
Yeah.
Everything changed. It felt like overnight. When I look back on it now, it's like, man, how did that even happen?
Yeah.
But it just happened so fast.
Yeah.
There was no way for me to even take a step back. I did go to treatment once, not too long after I turned 18, I think. And so it was quick. I mean, the escalation required me to go to inpatient relatively quickly. I wasn't ready, by any stretch of the imagination.
You didn't want to change?
It's not even that. It's just that I wasn't ready. Looking back on it now, it was in all reality, a waste of time and money and probably could have set me up to overdose and die.
Yeah, is that right? Interesting. So did you finish high school?
I did. I finished high school barely by the skin of my teeth.
Yeah.
Tried to do some college while also in active use.
Yeah.
Obviously not successful.
Yeah.
And I was incarcerated the first time when I was 19.
No kidding.
So very quick succession of events.
So is this
me.
jail? Are we talking?
Jail and then Department of Corrections
for
no
kidding.
A 50-month DOSA sentence. Yeah, at 19 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so what happened to your relationships? I mean, did you have people who were advocating for you, who were trying to intervene?
Yes and no. I think my dad, because of his history with addiction and alcoholism, knew that there was only so much that he could force or luckily I had a long enough sit down and a lot of consequences still kind of hanging over my head post-incarceration that I was able to stay sober.
Yeah.
For a good amount of time, and a little over 4 years.
And do you relapse?
I decided that I could drink.
Yeah.
I decided that I had never really had a problem with alcohol, and I was 21 now.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And did you just want to participate in culture? Sorry, Eric.
Yes.
I'm fascinated. I forgot you were sitting here. Sorry.
Thank you, guys.
Eric can leave.
Yeah.
It's fine.
What is that?
Yeah.
What is that
This
deep voice?
is just Barden. It's not Barden.
I'm sure Amy could bombard into me.
Yeah,
No problem.
on her own.
Herself.
There's really no question. Yeah, so I just wanted to touch base real quick on, you said that you had things hanging over your head, and so there was an accountability piece there that was helping you stay on the straight and narrow.
Yes.
But then when that was over,
Yep. Exactly.
You're an addict, but you can certainly drink that without any problems. So,
totally.
Right.
And like, that's the way that the disease works.
Right.
That's the way that my thinking works, is that, I had never had a problem with alcohol before.
Mm-hmm.
I had a problem with pain pills.
Yeah.
I had a problem with something that I was physically dependent on, which is very true, right? Like, this is my logic and justification at the time. I decided that I was going to drink, and actually it was okay for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I got some DUIs.
Yeah.
And then
So you were good at it.
And then it got problematic. Yeah. And that is the story of my life, is like, I start doing a thing and then it gets problematic.
Yeah.
Right. And then I have consequences. I've never been one of those people that like skates a consequence. Like, I'm getting the book thrown at me. I'm sitting in jail. I'm not getting bailed out. They are giving me, I have over 6 years sober, and I still have an interlock in my car.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that is crazy.
So we talk all the time about jails and prisons. I mean, what is your perspective on all of this?
We've had like a very brief piece of this conversation before, and I told you that the last time that I got arrested, I was so grateful for. I was dying.
Yeah.
I am so grateful for the officer that put me in the back of his car and took me to jail.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful, once again, that I'm one of those people that racks up consequences because I wasn't getting out.
Yeah.
And that is what had to happen for me.
Yeah. Were you grateful in that moment? Was on some level, did you think, I basically this needs to happen, or were you mad?
No, there was like a pretty profound sense of relief.
Oh, interesting.
Because I was exhausted.
Yeah.
I was exhausted by that time. I mean, I had been unhoused, overdosing, barely surviving.
Yeah.
For years at that point.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was relief, like almost immediately. And the withdrawals in jail suck.
Yeah.
It's something I've done more times than I can count.
Yeah.
But I mean, relief.
So did you start to get treatment? I mean, did you basically redesign your life alone, or did you have services and people help you?
So that's actually really interesting, because I didn't really have a lot of resources specifically around the substance use.
Yeah.
When I was incarcerated the last time, right? I did some jail bouncing around. I had, misdemeanor warrants out of a bunch of counties, and they were like, we're just gonna move her around.
Yeah.
I did, King County, Pierce County, what's Bellingham, Whatcom County, and Thurston County. I was making a mess all over the place.
Yeah.
You were prolific.
I was all, actually, it's so funny because most of it was driving stuff. It was all of the, just stacked up, driving on a suspendeds and ignition interlock violation.
That gets to be a cycle. Yeah.
It's a lot. And so, I did a bunch of bouncing around there. And I had one warrant for an old possession charge from a few years before, and I ended up going back into the Department of Corrections, into the prison system for that.
How did you do in prison?
Honestly, I do so well in structure, jail structure, like all of that I've always been really good at.
Yeah.
Really good in sober living environments, really good in anything that's really structured.
Yeah.
So that's just Yeah, I find that's very common with addicts and alcoholics.
Well, it makes sense because there's chaos ensues, right? And so then probably to have a break from it. So do you think that something, even you described being in a family with alcoholism, do you think that there was some trauma that was not addressed or some mental health issues or anything? Or do you feel like, no, I was doing fine, life would have been good, except for I got prescribed this pill?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's so hard for me to say.
Hard to say.
Yeah.
I do think that there's quite a bit of trauma from childhood and a lot of beliefs that I developed in that trauma that were reinforced by my behavior and the decisions that I made later on in life.
Yeah.
And, you asked about like treatment and resources while I was incarcerated. And honestly, the thing that was so helpful for me was the fact that I got an opportunity to work with a therapist, to work with a psychiatrist, to do some mental health treatment while I was incarcerated at Mission Creek out in Belfair. And I still use the tools that I learned in those sessions to this day.
Yeah.
Like it is something that is always at the forefront of my mind. And those diagnoses and the help that I got there put me in a really good position to do the substance use work.
Yeah. Can you give an example of what you were taught or some, illumination?
Yes. Yeah. So I've been diagnosed now with PTSD, which is not super surprising because of the way that I used. And one of the things that we did was cognitive processing therapy. And so I have these beliefs based in feelings, right? My family thinks I'm a disappointment. My dad thinks I'm a disappointment, and then it teaches you to kind of look at that statement or look at that belief and say, okay, is this true? Right? Like, does this actually hold up in a court of law? Have you ever heard your dad say that?
Yeah.
Is this a black and white belief? Is it, and it has you like kind of go through these questions and you almost like disprove these beliefs to yourself. And that tool was instrumental for me to get out of that black and white thinking that I had been living in for so long.
Yeah. And I think also feelings are not facts. Right? I mean, that
is me.
It's amazing. I mean, I sometimes think kids understand this better than the grownups that I'm around often. Yes. It's like, no, that is a thing that is going on in your brain in this moment. You've got to create some distance between whatever that feeling is and then whatever the reality is, right? So it is just repatterning the thinking.
I'm curious, going back to your multiple stints in jail where you were talking about, withdrawals and going through really rough times there. If you were able to wave the proverbial magic wand and create a system or a mechanism by which we provide support to folks in jail for those short stints, like you were in for a day,
60, 90 days. Yeah, short. Yeah.
Oh, I'm talking about just at booking. I'm not talking about after being sentenced or awaiting trial. I'm saying like most people get booked and they're released a day later or 2 days later.
I've never had that experience.
That wasn't your experience? Oh, really?
You
well, they're like, this girl, we can't let her out of our sight.
I've never had that happen.
Wow.
No.
That is...
Wow. Okay, all right. Okay, so I suppose this is actually a unique opportunity to find somebody who's, relatively short periods of time, 30 days, 40, 50, whatever. I would imagine that the resources that were available in prison were significantly more than those available in jail. But yet almost everybody that's in prison was in jail.
Yes.
Multiple times before they went to prison. So it's like mind-boggling to me why we don't as a society invest more in folks that are in jail, because then maybe they don't go to prison.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no.
It's like, hello, this is like
Yeah, and I think that that tries to happen, right? I was not offered drug court the first time I was arrested. The first time I was arrested was the first time I went to prison. I was not offered drug court.
And what was the crime? Were you in possession? I mean, did they?
No,
they just
it was
didn't
like
consider
residential burglaries.
Okay. I am always so frustrated by this. It's like we've decided this narrow little category. These are the drug crimes.
Yes.
And I'm like, they're all the drug crimes.
It's absolutely
all drug crimes.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that.
And I got a
DOSA
sentence, right?
Yeah.
I got a drug offender sentencing alternative.
Yeah.
Right?
So they know.
Yes.
They
knew.
Yeah. It's just, and again, I know we have really good advocates. I really like our King County prosecuting attorney a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people are working on this, but for me, I'm like, we could change this tomorrow collectively. It's very frustrating.
Well, and I think too, this wasn't always the case for me, but it was for a lot of people that I know, is they were not set up for success when being released from a county jail situation.
Not at all. Nobody is. Yeah.
Sober living.
Boot it out.
Yeah.
Have at it.
Bye.
It's midnight.
Good luck, have fun.
Yeah. Not even bus fare. I mean,
it's the dumbest thing.
It is. It's wild to me.
Yeah.
I have always had family. I've always had somewhere to go.
Yeah.
I've always had some support system,
Yeah.
right? But so many people don't have that.
Yeah.
And
then we wonder what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to go exactly back to where you were when you were getting in trouble to get into jail in the first place. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
You know Amy King, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah. It's brilliant. But it was interesting when we were talking about homeless response. She said, we got to remember that the predictably homeless population, there's only one, really. It used to be vets as well, and now we've kind of gotten after that, but it's folks exiting jails and prisons.
Mm-hmm.
And so why not focus on that? And I was asking actually a couple of care responders yesterday about, are you encountering folks who are exiting King County Jail? And Patrick said, Amy, twice I have walked out and they're sitting on our step, having no idea where to go. And it's just devastating to me because, again, I feel like if we spend so much money on the booking process.
Yeah.
And to what end?
Yeah. I mean, why is there not case managers in the jail system?
Yeah.
Why are we not
here's your
keeping
magic
a history
wand.
on these people that are coming in and out of jail, except for their criminal history, right?
Yeah.
What resources do they need? Like, if we kept them here for 2 weeks where they're safe and they're being fed, could we get them into stable, supportive housing?
This is the legacy thing from, we used to think that, getting arrested in jail, that's the deterrent effect. So that's going to prevent people from doing stuff. I think we've disproven that.
Yes, 100%.
I think we can safely say that hasn't worked out all that well. I mean, it's certainly a deterrent for all the people that don't go to jail. Mm-hmm. But for the people that are going to jail, not much of a deterrent.
People tell me with today's drugs that it isn't a deterrent. It's like it was an inconvenience, basically.
Yes.
But the drug is so much more powerful than the threat of this consequence.
Yes.
And so I feel like that voice is so uniform, and yet we're not doing anything about that. I hear a lot of conversations where it's like, we just need more bookings. And okay, cool. And then what, though?
Yes.
To what
end? We do need more bookings, but we need those bookings to be meaningful, and we need those bookings to be a tangible opportunity to change, to give people help
and
wraparound services so that they don't become recidivists and high utilizers and then graduate to prison.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the sort of the narrative that we need to change in society. We need to get that figured out.
Yeah. With regard to recovery, what is your perspective on harm reduction? One of our friends told me that when folks are exiting prison, uniformly they're offered Suboxone.
I told you that.
Did you? I think I've heard it from a few people. I think Jenny was talking about it too. Mm-hmm. But I cannot get my head around that. It does not make any sense to me.
Let's get you on a drug. Yeah. You're not on Suboxone now, but we're going to let you out here. It's just lunacy.
So, from my perspective, especially now that I'm working with young people, right? And I think that has been kind of a big catalyst for me over the last year, is seeing the impact on this harm reduction model on youth, right? Like kids are so resilient.
Yeah.
They don't need a harm reduction model.
Yeah.
They need structure and community and this positive peer pressure that Bridges can provide, right?
Yeah.
The Recovery High School can provide, and appropriate resources for everyone that has insurance and people that don't.
Yeah.
Right. And that is there's a huge disparity in those groups of people. I believe that Matt works for people.
So medically assisted treatment.
Yes, medically
so
assisted.
So you mean it's stepping down?
Suboxone, right? If I'm being 100% honest, I've never been given Suboxone by a medical professional.
Yeah.
In a very controlled way. I used it as a stopgap from getting sick when I was using.
Yeah.
And that's it. But yes, upon exiting the Department of Corrections, at Mission Creek, at WCCW, they will offer Suboxone to people who have been sober for at least 9 or 10 months. Because the minimum sentence, right, is a year and a day.
Yeah.
You end up doing 9 or 10 months on that, depending on how long you sat in jail.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I've seen people who have been sober, who have been offered Suboxone and taken it and released from DOC on another addictive substance.
Yeah.
It's so disappointing.
Opted out of that.
Good job. Good job. Yeah.
I'm, once again, I'm not a super big believer in it. I think if you are having, really painful withdrawals, if you are if there's a medical need for it to do a step down program of something like that, it makes a ton of sense to me.
And unfortunately, I think that often it's viewed by folks as like the answer. No, it's not an answer. It's if medically assisted treatment, I agree with you. There's a place for it.
Yes.
But it's a very small place, and it is not a lifetime of Suboxone. You're just addicted to a different chemical at that point.
Yes.
That's just the bias of low expectations that is just pervasive, but it gives people the feeling that they're doing something good for folks. And so, aren't we, providing support to this person? We're offering them. Well, yeah, you're actually sentencing them to a much harder go than if they can maintain the sobriety that they've had. And so what we need to do is, instead of just, it's like the American way, like we give a pill to fix the problem, right? It's like, no, that was what got us here to begin with. That was what got you there to begin with. So I don't know.
So what my approach to it this time, which was actually very different than any time I had ever been released from anywhere. Treatment.
And this is 6 years ago?
This is, February of 2020. Okay. Which is insane.
Quite a time. To come back into the real world. Wow.
Yes, it was very interesting.
Jeez.
Add
a degree of difficulty.
In a new city where I don't know anybody, right?
Because in March, right?
Yep, that was when the shutdown happened.
Yeah.
So I obviously didn't do the Suboxone.
Yeah.
But I did get a Vivitrol shot upon
I didn't
release.
even know that was out at the time. That's awesome. And was that good for you?
It was great.
Yeah.
It was a non-addictive security blanket that felt really good. There's no medical side effects to something like that. And honestly, especially with COVID hitting, I'm so glad I did that.
Yeah.
Because I saw so many people relapse. I saw so many people struggle during that time, which totally makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I would have used or drank.
Yeah.
But I had that security blanket for myself.
Yeah.
And my peace of mind. And, and I moved into sober living.
Okay.
Upon release.
Which is also critical.
Where did you go?
I actually went to another sober living for a very short period of time when I first got out, and then I moved into Weld housing.
Into Weld, that's what I thought. Yeah, that's amazing. I love how all of my favorite people hang out. Actually,
Small
a lot
world.
of my favorite people have done time together. It always cracks me up when I say certain names, and it's like, oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I moved into Weld housing. Carolyn was actually the head of women's housing at that time. Pat was my husband's like recovery mentor when he was newly sober.
No kidding.
Like 9 years ago.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's all very like interconnected and serendipitous, but I did that. I lived in Weld housing for probably close to 6 months or so. And then I actually got a job managing a sober living house in West Seattle called Seattle Sober Living.
Okay.
With David Gould.
So this is really the start of your career then?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. What do you think the role of, that self-reliance, having a job, taking care of yourself, what role does that play in recovery in your opinion?
It was so important for me. It was so important for me, actually, just the step of moving to Seattle, right? Because my family's down in Tacoma.
Yeah.
Right. My grandma and my dad, who are my biggest support system and my biggest enablers, right? And so taking that space from them was really important for me to just be on my feet and build my own community, right? And I said earlier, like my dad's sober.
Yeah.
Everybody knows my dad in the recovery community in Tacoma.
Yeah.
I can't go anywhere without being Scott's daughter.
Yeah.
And so like you lose some of your anonymity and your autonomy in that way. And so that was the biggest piece for me, was taking that step away from them. I've almost always had a job. I've almost always like paid my rent and taken care of myself, even through all the crazy times. And but yeah, I mean, those pieces are so important. The self-reliance, the building of your own community. And I don't know, I really had to like start fresh.
Yeah. Yeah. You were such a good leader. It's fascinating. I've had the same reaction to Patrick. I cannot imagine another version of you than the one that I know today. Although it seems like you were masterful at whatever you said.
She's good at whatever she does.
Yeah, whatever I set my mind to. That is very true.
Yeah. Talk to us about when thematically we always hear the role of peers. That like you, Amy, with your letters after your name, like you were never going to talk me into anything. You were not going to know when I was lying to you. I just keep hearing that and acknowledge that makes perfect sense to me. So how should we be using peers in these systems, in your opinion?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I think the lived experience piece is so important because it is, at least in my experience, I need to be able to relate to somebody. Right. Yeah. And I think that you have such beautiful insight and your willingness to like listen to people with lived experience that like I would probably listen to you. Oh, I don't know if I would listen to him.
I listen to her. I'll tell you that. I wouldn't listen to me either.
But there is something to be said for a peer who understands what you're going through and can relate to you on a level. In the work that I've done in my program of recovery, right? Having a sit-down moment with my sponsor or with my sponsees or other women in the program with me, we just tell these horror stories about our lives in active use or our character defects, and we just laugh.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's so funny.
Yeah.
And like that relatability piece has been so important for me as a young woman growing in recovery, to have friends I relate with, to have friends like Carolyn who have also been to prison, who have also, stepped into this nonprofit work, who also have kids, like having that relatability.
There's just credibility too.
It's
with your kids today, are you sometimes like, I was you?
All the time.
Yeah.
And I started having that experience when I started managing sober living houses and working with teenagers and young women that were just like me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there have been times I've called my grandma and apologized for something like very specific that I remember doing because I was having somebody else do it to me. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy.
Yeah.
I used to do the same thing.
Yeah. I feel like we've lost the awareness that we can use all this stuff, right? I talk about post-traumatic growth a lot. I feel like the best leaders I know, their characteristics were forged during the darkest chapters, right? The lessons learned and the skills acquired. And I worry about young people that there's a lot of hand-wringing. It's like, I'm a victim. I'm so traumatized. It's like they're almost held hostage to whatever they perceive the victimization to be. Sometimes it's real. Sometimes it's perceived, in my opinion. So what would you say about that?
I would say that there are a lot of young people that I see that have these very severe co-occurring disorders. And I think, families and mental health professionals tend to lean into the idea that it's mostly the mental health and the substance use is a consequence.
Yeah.
The substance use is like a secondary thing. And at least in my experience, like that's not the case.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think to treat one as less important than the other, or
that's good.
It is counterproductive in my opinion, right? Because if you have that alcoholism, that addiction, that disease, right, that we talk about, is like no amount of therapy is going to fix that. No amount of family therapy and going to the psychiatrist and medication management, outpatient and this and that and the other, like none of it's not going to fix it. It's the community. It's especially with teenagers, right? That positive peer pressure.
Yeah.
I didn't have that when I was, in my teens trying to get sober for my family or for, whatever I was trying to do back then. I went to meetings, but like there was nobody my age there.
Yeah.
And I went
You felt disconnected from that group.
I did. Yeah. I didn't have a ton of peers that were doing what I was doing. Most of my peers were like just getting going.
Yeah. I think it's so cool that there's a trend now toward just always living sober, abstaining from alcohol. I always did. I mean, I was raised with the idea that the body is sacred, but the brain is really sacred. I mean, that was just every day of my life. I believe that, and that anything that was addictive, you should be very thoughtful about. And I mean, anything. I was careful about shopping. I was, even about praise or attention, like all the stuff that is the dopamine, right? I didn't know that that's what I was thinking about as a young person, but I just was always trying to be very measured and thoughtful about it because I wanted to have autonomy. I felt like I want to be able to make good decisions. But I remember feeling totally not ostracized, but people were like, if I'd order a Diet Coke, it was like, are you an alcoholic? Or so it was like there was always this assumption that I had some extreme something, and I was like, I would make the joke, I don't like liquid calories, which was also true. That
still
you're going to make a smart ass comment,
No, not me.
But I like that it's becoming normalized now, that there's mocktails on every menu.
Yes.
And because I think so much of this is cultural.
It is.
It's like, this is just what you do in college.
Yeah, and drinking is down, for young people across the country, which is good. But and actually for adults too. I want to go back a little bit. You said earlier on that you went to rehab the first time. You weren't ready. It didn't work. But you also said that when you went to the meetings and you went to this and that, you were like the only young person there. And so, I mean, and then now looking at your current role and you have young people surrounded by other young people that are dealing with that. Do you think it was that you weren't ready, or do you think it was that you were in the wrong environment, or maybe it was a combination of both?
Probably both.
See, I'm listening to what you say.
On some level, probably both. I think that the peers that I had at that time when I was trying to, because I did go to treatment when I was 18, and that was before I had gotten arrested. And so I was like trying to do something there.
But it just didn't take. You just weren't.
No, I wasn't fully committed.
Do you think if you had bridges, that would have worked?
Definitely. I think if I would have had a community of young people, so I went to treatment in an adult treatment center because I was 18, right? So once again, I'm the youngest person there.
Yeah.
By far.
Yeah.
My problems aren't that bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're bad. But, at the time, it didn't feel that bad. And I also had like a boyfriend that I used with at the time. So that was kind of a factor.
Huge factor.
And the peers and the friends that I had, they drank and they used.
Yeah.
They didn't drink and use like I did, but they drank and used. Yeah. And so I could continue.
As opposed to a sober environment where everybody's
sober peers.
doing the same thing.
Yeah. I like went to meetings and stuff, but I just, I wasn't comfortable. I didn't feel at home. Once again, I'm like Scott's daughter and like, Scott's daughter's here, It was a thing that I didn't like, especially when I was like 18 years old, you know? But yeah, I mean, even then, even after getting out of incarceration in my early 20s, like I still didn't really have a peer group. I had friends, but they were like 5-10 years older than me, different places in their life. You know?
What I keep hearing, like the first time I went to Well, that made a big impression on me, the idea that, no, you have to be part of a community that holds you accountable, right? And we can see things, we can perceive changes in behavior, basically. And I've heard that on the daily ever since. You know, people just keep validating that function. What advice do you have for parents? I mean, you're a mama. You know, I'm sure you must have natural concern for, you know, the generational cycles.
Yes.
So how are you thinking about parenting? And then what advice do you have so that kids do not wind up where you were at 18?
Gosh, man, that's so tough. I mean, I think anyone that has that predisposition, right? Like being informed about that predisposition, I think is really important.
Yeah.
Right? Because like I really knew the level of what it could get to. And I was very careful up until that car accident, right? And so, and I also knew where to go. But I think once that switch was flipped for me, it was really hard. You know, and I think, you know, my husband also in AA, also sober, is 9 years sober. His dad has 20 plus years.
Oh, wow.
And he had that conversation with his dad, but he was really young. He was like 12.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this before, but he doesn't really know how much of an impact that conversation had at 12.
Yeah.
And so I think, it's about open communication. It's about creating safety and community in the home. You know, allowing these young people to connect with healthy peers.
Yeah.
Because I think that is like the biggest detriment to parenting a teenager, at least from what I've seen, right? Because I'm parenting toddlers right now.
Right.
So
kind of the same.
So you know, interesting. You talk about like the peer pressure as being, and that we've seen that down at the Other Side Academy in, you know, for adults, and their peer pressure can be a little, I'd say, aggressive. They have aggressive accountability. Where they all sit down and they'll tell the person what it is that they, you know, from earlier in the week, the thing that I think you were doing wrong and why I think you need to fix it. And it's very direct talk. It's very straight talk.
It's very therapeutic community.
Yes,
it is.
yes,
It is.
exactly.
Yeah,
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So
I've done that.
Yeah.
It was really powerful to watch. I mean, you can see why it's so effective. But tell us, how does it work at Bridges in terms of like peer accountability is so important. What form does it take?
So we have certified peer counselors on staff. One of them is 20 and the other is 25 or 26. So they are still close enough to being peers with these teenagers that I think that really helps reinforce the positive behavior around it.
Yeah.
And honestly, these kids buy into this lifestyle so easily. Like I said earlier, like they are resilient. They truly are. Yeah. And once they see that life in recovery, the possibilities are endless, like they're not missing out on anything. A lot of the times it's the kids with a little bit more time sober that are really being the positive peer pressure in the group and calling their peers out and encouraging their peers to take accountability or be honest or get that sponsor or get that home group. Like we lean on the kids that have been in the program a lot to be leaders.
Yeah.
And they're way more influential than I am with these kids.
And so you create that environment. That's what the beauty of it is. You create the environment where the kids are helping the kids.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and same thing with the recovery high school, you know. Most of the people on staff there are in recovery or have a really good understanding of what that means. But man, these kids, they are doing it themselves.
Yeah.
You know, we point them in the right direction.
Yeah. The last thing I want to ask you, and this is sort of related to the parenting question, one of the things I hear often is, and I relate to as a mom, is like, I did enable him. I didn't realize I was trying to help. Yep. And I think especially as moms, sometimes we believe, I hold the torch. I am the safe place. I am, unconditional love. And then that gets sort of misapplied to mean enablement. And so what would you say about that? I mean, do you work with the parents of these kids too?
I do, yeah. I'm in pretty frequent communication with them. A lot of the parents, I have really good relationships with them. And I would say that it is such a fine line between taking care of and enabling. Yeah. And, I think in my personal experience, if I look back, I can see where the enabling happened. And I'm sure, especially like my grandma, my biggest enabler would say yes, right? And I think that just kind of comes back to this idea of creating healthy boundaries for myself, right? And so that's something that I have tried to really encourage in my communication and my relationships with these parents is what is the line? Yeah. And communicate the line, hold the line. Yeah. And that is really important because once the line gets wavy and starts moving back and forth, then you become the inconsistent person as the parent, and that creates more issues. Yeah.
I mean, kids need consequences. Yes. And so that I've told this story before, the first forum I ever did, and I'm just answering questions, as I saw it. And it was it was also at the WAC, it was a lot of privilege in that space. And some people knew that my background was mostly child welfare, and some people had known me when I was here before. And ask the question but Amy, the brain isn't really fully developed until 25. And so how, you can't expect a kid to blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay. they're talking about why we shouldn't have consequences for kids. And I said, that means the opposite of what you think it means. It means the consequence has to be so clear. Yes. And I made the joke, have you met a 3-year-old? And everybody started laughing. But I'm like, we know that. We know that as parents that you have to have cause and effect. But we've decided that there shouldn't be any juvenile justice system at all, right? We strip the consequences out of it entirely. And then we'll have these kids facing life all of a sudden, right? Or dying young. And so I find it very frustrating that, I think the issue is conflating consequence and accountability with pure punishment. Right. That is the problem.
Yes, 100%.
Once again, accountability is compassion.
Yeah, right? That's what Joe Lozana says all the time.
You only work that hard for somebody you care about, right? You're only going to try to impose accountability for people that you actually love, not the other way around.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there any last thing you want to share? I mean, I'll put a link to Bridges and to your awesome work because I wish that program, it just needs to explode. Yes, it really does.
It's so necessary and so important, and you really are changing the world, and I appreciate that very, very much.
It is such a successful model, this recovery high school and alternative peer group ecosystem. It is so successful other places. Yeah. And man, it is so tough watching. Luckily, Bridges is its own standalone nonprofit. It will exist as long as we keep pouring our hearts and our souls into it. But, the recovery high school is a weird off branch of an alternative
got divested,
school.
Did you know?
Did. Yeah, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I freaked out. I was like, why do we, the very best models we have in the area keep closing? Yes. And it's, we're not saving money when we do that.
No. Yeah. It's just creating expenses other places down the road.
Right. Yep. That's exactly right.
And, they're losing funding. They're losing grant money at the school. Yeah. One of our biggest advocates there and the outreach coordinator that was working to get more people in. Yeah. They cut the funding for that position this last year.
We'll post a link to that school as well so that people can, because I remember there was a public outcry. Yes. I mean, I got messages from 2
years ago.
Yeah. And was happy to lend my voice to that battle. So I love you. I'm so glad that I know you. And
I'm just glad you guys let me be in the podcast.
Well, we're going to edit you out.
There's not a lot of editing to be done.
We could yap.
Yeah. That's how the other person I did that with was Amy King.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
I could not help myself.
Yeah. She was just like,
yeah, we can both talk. You got you got Amy'd.
I got Amy
in that one for sure.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
really,
you're so
really appreciate
welcome.
it. You're doing amazing things. It was a pleasure to meet you recently, and this was a really, really great conversation.
And we're excited to meet Leo.
Yes.
So we'll have you back in a year with baby.
With a tiny human.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
And
you can bring my husband up next because he is.
Does he have a story?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
He's got a story. He works at Weld.
Oh,
He's an MSW student at UW.
I didn't know he worked at Weld.
Yeah. And we met managing sober living houses.
Okay, we should have had you both on.
He's helping David Nielsen develop their clinical program.
No kidding. I love David.
Right now.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
We should definitely
you're invited.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
He's awesome, and he's very opinionated. You guys will have fun.
And now you've been bombarded.
The Bombardin Podcast is a Barden Squared production. Executive producers are Eric Barden and Amy Barden, and video and audio production of the Bombardin Podcast is by Thread Theory Creative.